gentlemen, welcome to the Chargers Brawl podcast. Dan Wilkinson here with Jake Hefner. We have a fun show today and a very special guest. The one and only Fernando Ramirez has decided to give us some time. Fernando, welcome to Chargers Brawl again, friend of the show. How are you?
Thanks, I'm good. I think I kind of invited myself on here, but hey, I mean, I'm excited to be on here, and I saw you guys have been having other people on. I'm like, whoa, I haven't gotten a call in a while, so I was hurt feelings there, but we're all good. I mean, it's all good. I'm here, excited to talk some Chargers football with you guys.
You can blame Jake for that.
No, it's all your fault, dude. It's your damn fault. Yeah, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Blame Jake. Jake has enough going on. Come on.
Okay, I'll take the L on that one too.
You're over here in Mount Laguna or wherever in the snow hanging out. I mean, hey, could have sent out a hey, dude, you want to join the pod? I mean, no, we're having fun out here in the snow. Being a chef on social media as well. I mean, I don't know what. I think you're trying to compete with Pop, to be honest, with Daniel Popper. I think you're over here trying to make some competition with Daniel Popper.
Hey, look, if Popper ever wants to go up with me on any kind of taco recommendation, I'm down because I got some topics to go over there. And Fernando, I'm telling you, if I knew you wanted to build a snowman with me, I would have gladly brought you over. But
I was comfortable watching the Sunday games. I was comfortable. I was relaxed. I was chilling. So
Fernando's over here. Do you want to do the snowman?
The first movie was very good. The second one, I was 5-10 minutes in, and I was like, okay, I can't watch this. The first one was very good, though. Applause to them. I like the first one.
Yes, I do too. So do my nieces. So, look, we have a ton to go over, Fernando. We've had lots of things happen last couple of weeks in Chargers land. So we're going to go over all things Brandon Staley. We'll talk about the coaching staff. We'll talk about how it's going to affect Justin Herbert, the offseason. But let's just kick it off with a easy one. Easy.
So you're going to have Jake ask it?
Yeah, Jake, let's go ahead. Start. Question one.
Wow, that's how it's going to be today. Got it. Well, since it's so easy, Fernando, let me hear your easy answer on your initial reaction to Brandon Staley getting hired. I know from what you had told us offline, obviously, that you're a huge fan of the hiring, but I wanted to just hear from you in detail. As you know, what differences do you think that we're going to see, and what type of changes overall to the team?
Thank you for your question. I'm just here so I won't get fined.
It was an extremely easy answer.
Extremely
easy answer. You hear that, Dan? That's how it's done. Very easy.
You know what? I in all seriousness, I actually had Brandon Staley on my my top 3 list. I always had a 4th, just because I would have loved to have seen Jim Harbaugh on the sidelines in the khakis, throwing the ball with Justin Herbert. So that would have been a lot of fun. Imagine if the whole team came out like mandatory, like wherever they flew, they had to wear khakis. That would have been awesome. But yeah, just going back to that, I thought Staley was one of those guys because you know what, when we spoke to Tom, when they released the news that Anthony Lynn had been fired, I read what owner Dean Spanos had said, and he said the word innovative. So that really stuck with me, and I'm like, okay, who's innovative? Well, Urban Meyer's not innovative. Urban Meyer, we know what he is from his time at Utah, from his time at Florida and Ohio State. We know what kind of a coach he is. I started looking around. Brian Daboll, I mean, yeah, he's innovative, but the reason why I never believed the Daboll thing was just because everyone was saying that was the way the Chargers were going to go. And the Chargers aren't a team like that, so I thought it was a lot of smoke screens going that way. The reason why I like Brandon Staley is just because of what I had asked around, and everybody kept on telling me the connections that he had made. That's what kind of a team the Chargers have, a team built with connections, guys that like each other, guys that hang out with each other. Well, I mean, obviously you can't hang out right now because of everything going on, but guys that just connect well with each other. When we're in the locker room and we walk over to where the cornerbacks and the secondaries are, those guys are playing basketball with like a little basketball. They're playing, they're making bets, they're doing all kinds of stuff, they're joking around, they're having fun. When you go over to like where the running backs are, they're together, they're talking, everyone's always talking with their respective unit when you walk in. I remember one time I asked Brandon Mebane for an interview, and he's like, "You want an interview?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Come here." He walks me over with Jerry Tillery, and he wants me to talk to Jerry Tillery and ask him questions. So it's like one of those things where these guys are close and they're a tight-knit group. what they needed was a coach that, and you know what's funny, Brandon Staley during his press conference was doing a lot of this. So I mean, connecting. So I was like, okay. I kept on noticing his hands. And on Tuesday, Tuesday, I saw him on the Pat McAfee show. So I saw him on the Pat, and he was doing that again. But what brought it home to me was what Jalen Ramsey said about him. Now, Jalen Ramsey in 2016 or 17, when Gus Bradley was fired, he said we were doing the exact same thing. We weren't changing it up. We weren't doing different things. Light bulb. Jalen Ramsey said stuff about quarterbacks. And like a couple of years ago, he came out and talked about every single quarterback, except for Phillip Rivers, except for Tom Brady, like some of the top-notch quarterbacks. But then when you heard what he said when I heard what he said about Brandon Staley, I'm like, oh, wow, okay. That means that Brandon may be the real deal just because somebody like Jalen Ramsey saying that. Then you take a look at the guys that he kind of, and I know this is a very long answer. Then you look at the guys that he's been around, the Khalil Macks, Leonard Fournette, Bradley Chubb, Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald. You're like, wow, okay, he's worked with big stars. Now he gets Joey Bosa and Derwin James. I had done my research, and I noticed that out of the 10 head coaches that the Chargers had hired in the Alex Spanos era, they had only hired one defensive-minded head coach. With that defensive-minded head coach, they had their best season in franchise history, 14-2 with Marty Schottenheimer. They had only, as an organization, and 16 head coaches, they'd only hired 2 defensive-minded. So why not change it up? So they decided to change it up. They went with Brandon Staley. All I've heard is positive things coming out of everywhere. Vic Fangio's spoken about him. Sean McVay said some great things about him. So honestly, he's highly regarded. A lot. What's his name? ESPN Louis Riddick went on the Dan Patrick show, and he said, this kid is something else. Sean McVay told him, watch out, because this kid is the next up-and-comer to be a head coach. So honestly, I feel like the Chargers got a good one in him. And it's funny because Tuesday, they asked him on the Pat McAfee show, did coming to the Chargers and looking at who you had across in the division and Patrick Mahomes, did that steer you away from anything? And he's like, you know what? I'm going to answer you like this. As a competitor, you never run from an opponent. Today is the day of the passing of Kobe Bryant 1 year ago. And he's like, Kobe's one of my heroes. He's like, Kobe never shied away from anybody. He's like, so I'm not going to shy away from it. And I'm like, oh, wow. And even Pat McAfee's eyes are like, oh, wow, like that's a great answer. So it's going to be very interesting to see the way the Chargers defense comes together. I know that they have a couple of holes there. Offense has a couple of holes, but it looks like Brandon's up for it and he's excited. And that my first impression with him was, okay, this guy is very detailed. Every one of us, he tried to say our names 2 or 3 times in a answer to start remembering our names. So that's honestly pretty cool. So it'll be interesting to see the way he kind of goes within his first few weeks. But from everything you hear, it feels like the Chargers got I think Colin Cowherd said this, and I shouldn't be quoting him, but there's 2 very good coaches that come out of every coaching hire. He felt like Brandon Staley was the big name one from this coaching cycle. So it'll be very interesting to see the way Brandon kind of puts everything together. But honestly, from all the things I hear about, is all good things.
What would we haven't seen any details come out or emerge about contract details or duration or anything. If you're Tom Telesco, like what would you think would be fair to give him?
From the past, I just remember it's always 4-year contracts. If they make the playoffs, Meg McCoy, I remember, was a 4-year deal. He made the playoffs in 13. He didn't in 14, but in 14 he had a 9-7 record and they missed the playoffs by 1 game. They gave him a 1-year extension. Lynn, first year, 9-7, missed the playoffs by a game, then make the playoffs at 12-4 the next year, and they gave him a 1-year contract extension. I believe it'll probably be a 4-year, and then if he makes the playoffs within the first 2 years, he'll get a 1-year contract extension. That's usually the way the Chargers like to do it. I'd be very surprised if it was anything else, but I believe it's going to be a 4-year. I mean, they probably won't release those details for a little bit, but I'm pretty sure it'll be a 4-year contract.
Got it. Now, since the Brandon Staley hiring, he now has gotten a big portion of his staff already done. You saw just this week, Joe Lombardi, Renaldo Hill, Derius Swinton, all hired to fill out Staley's staff. What is your kind of overall feelings on the 3? How do you see them fitting in with Staley, and what do you see the big differences of them versus what we saw in 2020.
Well, Lombardi is always been regarded as like kind of a quarterback whisperer. I mean, honestly, the last 3 quarterbacks he's dealt with, and that's what I wrote today in my article, was he had Drew Brees. Well, Drew Brees is Drew Brees. I feel like he can help Justin learn about prep. I hope he connects Justin with Drew Brees, first of all. I think that that's somebody who he should really try and model his game after, in the sense of his preparation. I remember because the Chargers have been facing off against the Saints the last 4 years or 3 years in training. Well, this year it didn't happen, but the last 3 years before that, they had faced off each other in training camp. So the Saints would come down here. They would do 2 training sessions, and they would play their game Saturday, Sunday, whatever you want. I remember I would go over to the Saints side. Drew Brees would begin warming up before anybody, and then once everybody was doing their drills, Drew Brees was still warming up and stretching out and doing all that stuff. And I remember I asked him, I'm like, Drew, why do you do that? He's like, I'm older than these guys, but I have to be the most prepared, the most stretched out. I don't want to pull anything like that. It's all about my preparation. I had heard stories that when Drew Brees was with the Chargers, he would go to every single department and see how everything was running, everything doing, if he could do anything, if they wanted to use him for any promotional purposes. So that kind of stuff really resonates, and especially for a quarterback so well liked, so well respected around the NFL. So I feel like for his preparation and stretching out, all that stuff, I feel like that's what Justin should do. He should look out and kind of talk to some of the guys around the NFL. LT did that when he first got in the league. He reached out to Emmitt Smith. He reached out to some of the greats before him to ask him, how can I have longevity? So I feel like that's something smart that Justin needs to do. Because I mean, this, to be honest, and I mean, I don't mean to scare Charger fans, but this is this is a crucial offseason for Justin, just because in this offseason, everybody's going to sit down and watch tape on you. Teams are going to figure out some of the things that you do, some of your tendencies. We saw some of his tendencies kind of get a little rattled against the New England Patriots, but so those things can be fixed. But now it's, can he go into the offseason and fix his what he did last year and kind of and improve to be on that Patrick Mahomes level, where it's rare to see what way can you rattle this guy, and it's you have to make it hard or impossible, because it's hard to, like, you know, with Tom Brady, if you start hitting, I mean, most quarterbacks, if you start hitting them, they may let the ball loose, they may do all that stuff. My bad, I'm rambling. But basically, I feel like Joe Lombardi has an opportunity that he didn't have in Detroit. In Detroit, they really didn't have all that. Yeah, they had Calvin Johnson and they had Golden Tate, 2 1,000-yard receivers. But I don't feel like he had the weapons, and he didn't have like the system in place and the quarterback to really flourish. So I feel like he went back to New Orleans. He's learned a lot from Sean Payton, and I feel like he's coming into the situation with a breath of fresh air, and he's kind of like, okay, now it's about helping this quarterback take his game to the next level. He got Teddy Bridgewater paid by Carolina. He got Taysom Hill paid. And yeah, Taysom Hill does a lot of different things, but it seemed like the offense didn't skip a beat when Drew Brees was out and those guys were in. And then you look over at Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, I mean, for the little time that we've seen him, he looks like a different quarterback. So, I mean, hey, maybe Jameis was going to be the future starter for the New Orleans Saints come this season. But I feel like Joe has done a very good job with them. Renaldo Hill, I'm excited to talk to him tomorrow. I want to see what his role is going to be, because Brandon Staley told us that he's going to be the one calling the plays. Everything that I've heard from him is also positive. They feel like he's the next big defensive coordinator in the NFL. He's a former player. He's done some very good work there with, and this is what I also had talked about, is that when the Chargers were playing the Broncos, it seems like the secondary is always their biggest point of emphasis. Like, he helped 3rd-round pick Justin Simmons turn into an All-Pro. So honestly, I'm very excited to see. And then I saw some Charger fans put when they announced the hiring, oh, that means we're going to get Justin Simmons in free agency. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, that paycheck is I don't think that paycheck is going to be big enough for the Chargers to write. So I don't know if he's going to be coming here, but it should help guys like Nasir Adderley, some of these guys that are still floating around a little bit, and you're kind of trying to see what they're going to be. Special teams, I mean, hell, you just can't do any worse than last year. That was bad. Like, and it's going to be very interesting because Michael Badgley and Ty Long are both free agents. they both are coming off bad years. I just don't know if the Chargers are going to want to keep them both around. Because, I mean, Badgley was just missing field goals left and right, extra points. And sometimes in crucial situations, like in New Orleans, if you win that game in New Orleans, that could have changed your season around. So, I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see if they decide to bring back Badgley. Also, Tom Telesco spoke about it in his press conference that he has to do a better job of getting guys in here. The Derek Watts, the guys that really put their head down and they really do play well on special teams. He's let a lot of those guys go. Adrian Phillips is gone. Andrew Gachkar is gone. Some of these guys are Nick DeZubnard. They're gone, and he didn't replace them. And now it's kind of like he used a lot of young guys this year, and those young guys just didn't pan out. So it'll be very interesting to see what Tom Telesco does to kind of feel out this team.
We've seen this team's identity change over, the last two coaching regimes. This regime seems to, as Staley has said multiple times, really moving toward the analytics side of things. And then comments that you've heard from Lombardi about wanting to be aggressive on offense, go for it on fourth down, put the ball in Justin Herbert's hands in the final 2 minutes. Where do you see all of this trending as far as the overall team identity and personality under this new shift?
I mean, honestly, like kind of the way these guys said it, we won't know until they hit the field. But I think it's very positive moving forward, because there were times where Lynn and Steichen kind of took the ball out of Justin's hands, and everybody's like wondering, like, why are you taking the ball out of his hand? Like in Las Vegas, on that Thursday night game, Justin only threw one pass in the fourth quarter. And I feel like a lot of the times last year, Lynn and Steichen would kind of take the ball out of Justin's hands, and they would be like, okay, we've kicked their butts in the first 2.5 quarters. And going into the fourth quarter, they were running the ball a little bit more. And that's when the other team would come back and take the lead from the Chargers. And the Chargers were like, oh my God, Justin, we need you to turn it back on and try and win us this game. So honestly, I think it's a positive, just because you need to put the ball in your best player's hands. That's what the Chiefs have done. That's what that's what the Bucs did. Like, you put the ball in your best player's hands, and the best player is Justin Herbert. So I feel like in situations where last year you saw the Chargers on 4th and 2 at the 8-yard line, 10-yard line, 15-yard line, they wouldn't go for it. They would just kick the field goal. In those situations, you have to go for it. You have to put, and that's the thing, is that the Chargers last year always talked about, we need to put our knee on their throat or whatever, and we have to beat them, and they just would never do it. I mean, they would talk about it, but they would, in the games, they would rarely ever do it. So I feel like now they really do need to do that, and they need to emphasize that, like finishing off games. Like, okay, if you beat a team 55-10, okay, at least you finished off the game and you were consistently scoring. I feel like that's another thing too, that the Chargers can't jumpstart their offense and then turn it off. You have to consistently the whole game be on, even if that means running up the score 55-10. I mean, at least you secured the win, because hell, last year 24-3 against the Broncos going into halftime or coming out of halftime didn't help you. So I mean, you have to do something to because if not, you're just going to keep on losing games that same way.
One of the things that I think we've seen with this team is, and Jake and I have talked about it a few times on previous episodes, this team has seemed to work hard for their coach, but they're not necessarily working smart. And Brandon Staley seems like the X's and O's type of guy, where he will get them in the right position. He will not be outsmarted by opposing teams. How do you see, like in terms of the players on this team that we currently have, who do you see benefiting most from that, from Brandon Staley and bringing kind of that new age thinking, refreshing, smart, innovative mindset? What players benefit most from that?
Well, I feel like Justin Herbert will benefit a lot, just because last year in that 4-game winning streak, I know a lot of people wanted to give Lynn a lot of credit and Steichen for that 4-game winning streak, but they were still making those, and that's why ultimately, in my opinion, the Chargers didn't bring back Anthony Lynn or Steichen, is because they were making dumb mistakes still in the fourth quarter, and Justin was just overcoming them. I mean, he was like, I remember Keenan Allen was hurt against Atlanta, and they still put Keenan Allen in. Justin throws him the ball, and then it gets intercepted. And then towards the end of the game. So like moves like that, in a sense, kind of kill you. And I know, obviously, Keenan wants to be in there and everything, but in that situation, Lynn should have told him, dude, no. Like, stay out. Let's see what happens. So I feel like in I feel like he'll benefit a lot from that just because I felt like last year Justin did a kind of a good job on fourth down. I mean, the one in Buffalo where he just throws it up and Tyron Johnson catches it, like that's incredible. So I feel like Justin will really benefit from that. Austin Eckler, I think, is going to benefit from if they can use him the right way. Because that's the thing. Last year, I felt like the Chargers weren't using him the way they had used him the previous year. Because Melvin Gordon was gone, they weren't using him as a receiver anymore. They were using him just out of the backfield, little dinks and dunks. Hey, Austin, try and get us a first down. I think they need to go back to using him at receiver in the slot, moving him around pre-snap. I mean, hell, if you can get – and I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to get a Najee Harris, but if you can get a Najee Harris at running back and then have Austin go in motion and do little things kind of the way they did in that 2018 season. That 2018 season, I had never seen an offense – like they had done a good job moving the offense around and kind of throwing guys in different positions. This year, you saw Joe Reed score a touchdown. I think it was against either the Jacksonville Jaguars or the New York Jets. He scored a rushing touchdown, and then you never heard a peep about him on offense. And it's kind of like, why aren't you using all your weapons in certain situations? Like Joe Reed could easily be a guy that Justin has standing behind the tight end. He hikes the ball, he rolls out. And Reed could be a guy that he's going to get matched up on a linebacker. And if Justin throws it to him, he'll outrun the linebacker. So it's like little situations like that you're kind of like, why aren't they doing little things like that? And that's the thing is that I feel like the Chargers never use all of their players to the best of their abilities. And I feel like Brandon can do that. I feel like Joe's strengths are his speed. Well, why aren't you using him on end arounds? Why aren't you using him in certain situations? Like 19 from the Buffalo Bills, McKenzie. They use him in certain situations like that. I think that's his name. They use him in certain situations. They handed him off the ball. On 4th and 2, I think they handed him off the ball, and he was able to get the 2 yards. So you need to find better ways to use your players. Another guy that I feel like could benefit is just Derwin James. I feel like Derwin can do – like if Derwin can come back and he can stay healthy the way he has and be an all-pro again, I feel like he's going to benefit from having Brandon Staley as his head coach and Renaldo Hill as his defensive coordinator. So I feel like those 3 guys will really benefit from everything. I just have to see a little bit more of kind of what this offense is going to look like just because we haven't seen Joe Lombardi do anything as an offensive coordinator in a while. And with Detroit, like I said, he just didn't have the weapons that he has now with the Chargers.
Now let's take a look to the future. Coming up to the offseason, we're almost past the Super Bowl, getting the meat potatoes of the draft and then free agency. What should
free agency and then the draft?
Excuse me, yeah, reverse.
It's not the NBA, buddy.
This was an easy question, Jake.
Oh, Dan. God.
You can't say it.
Dan, shut up. And Fernando, what are the priorities for the Chargers this offseason?
Priorities. Like I was telling you guys off air, they need another speed receiver. I know everybody's saying Jalen Guyton, Tyron Johnson, and I feel like they're really good players. But I feel like in case you are planning on Mike Williams not being a future member of this team, you need a second receiver. You can't let what happened to Vincent Jackson happen again to Keenan Allen, where he's left by himself, no other receiver on the other side. They need a left tackle, obviously. Sam Tevi did well, but I just don't think he's a left tackle. I think they need to look for a left guard. I don't think Forrest Lamp is it. And that's the problem. And I'll say it. I mean, Tom Telesco's kind of had a problem when it comes to dealing with we all have weaknesses here and there. And I mean, as human beings, as in our jobs, all that stuff. I believe that Tom Telesco's his weakness as a general manager is drafting offensive linemen. Dan Feeney's good, but he's not an all-pro center. He's not a Pro Bowl center. He's good. Forrest Lamp hasn't been all that good. Sam Tevi's all right. Sam Tevi really, you know what? Sam Tevi did better at left tackle than he did at right tackle. I'll leave it like that. Like he did all right this season, but you need somebody there for the next 10 years with Justin. And I don't think Sam Tevi is that guy to be there all the next 10 years with Justin and be able to keep him right. So the Chargers really do need some work on the offensive line. You need another edge rusher. I don't believe Melvin Ingram's going to be back next season. I just feel like he's going to be owed to, or there's going to be too much money that's another team will pay him.
Is he actually going to be a tight end next year, or is that all smoke?
I don't think that's true. I mean, I had video of him playing tight end, and it was funny. We were in a press conference, and he runs up after, and he's like, "Hey, come here." I was like, "What's up, bro?" He's like, "Can you send that to me?" And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, I want to show people that I can play tight end." I was like, "Oh, okay, for sure." And I texted it to him, and he's like, "Thanks, bro. This is awesome." And I just started laughing. I don't know what he did with the video, but no, I think that's all smoke. I don't think he's actually going to play tight. If he did, then wow. I mean, he has hands, and I have seen him. Like, I remember his rookie year. I went to a camp. A camp that Larry English was having. And Melvin was playing quarterback, and let me tell you, like, the dude can sling it. Like, there was no corners, there was no nothing, but guys were running like post routes and all this stuff, and he was hitting them in stride. So I was really impressed. Melvin, I feel like can do anything. But yeah, no, I think Melvin won't be a Charger. So you need to find somebody with on the opposite side of Joey Bosa. You can't leave him by himself. You need another edge rusher out there. Could they bring in a Leonard Floyd who had a very good season this year with the Rams? He's familiar with Brandon Staley and his defensive scheme. Yeah, they possibly could. What are you going to do with Michael Davis and Rayshawn Jenkins? So Michael Davis, is he going to be a corner that you can give a 3-year contract to and you feel like he's going to do well? Rayshawn Jenkins, do they feel like he's their free safety? Yeah, and you know what? I've actually seen Rayshawn improve very well. I thought it was incredible that he was their best free safety 2 years ago, and then this year he was their best safety, even though he moved to strong safety. So I feel like Rayshawn may be a guy that stays. If not, I feel like they could look over at the Rams and look at John Johnson. I keep on saying Josh Johnson because of the USD connection with him, but John Johnson is a guy that I could see the Chargers try and poach from the Rams and bring him over to fit, because he had some very nice things to say about Staley as well his last during his exit interview. So the Chargers have a lot of questions that they really need to come together. Hunter Henry's another guy. I mean, what are you going to do at the tight end position? I'm really if I'm the Chargers, I feel very positively about my number 2 in Donald Parham. I feel like Donald Parham is actually, and even Steven Anderson, I feel like both of those guys are no slouches. I feel like if the Chargers brought them back, I feel both of them kind of showed that they could be used in a lot better situation. I mean, because anytime that Steven Anderson was in there, he would block. So I feel like Steven Anderson and Donald Parham are 2 guys that the Chargers should use more in their offense next season. But is Hunter Henry going to come back next year? Are you going to draft a tight end? Are you just going to franchise tag Hunter Henry again? These are a lot of questions that the Chargers are going to need to – I mean, yes, the team is very talented, but if I'm Brandon Staley, I'm also like, damn, there's a lot of question marks on this team. There's some free agents. There's cap things that we're going to have to do. Casey Hayward is owed $11 million next year, I think it is. Troy Turner's due $11 million as well. If you cut those 2 guys, you cut $22 million off of your cap, and that's more money that you can spend on other players. Are there better players out there that could help you more than Trey Turner, more than Casey Hayward? Honestly, I don't feel sorry for Brandon Staley just because there is a lot that he's going to have to answer, and like he said in his note, as soon as you guys are reading this, I'm already going to get to work. So he has to be working right now, and he has some tough choices coming up.
It's going to be interesting because I think everybody talks about the draft and all the strategies, and everyone talks about the offensive line and help, but there's a lot of holes that this team needs to fill, and Staley certainly has his work cut out for him. Fernando, it has been a pleasure. It has been a blast. Everyone, you can find Fernando Ramirez on Twitter at RealFRamirez, Chargers reporter for Sports Illustrated. Fernando is always a gem, always welcome to the show. Fernando, what are you doing for dinner tonight?
Are you asking for a date?
We can build a snowman together.
I don't think his wife would like that. Grandpa's stew. It's a tomato steak, potatoes, corn, and celery in a tomato-based soup. It's actually very good. I actually put some Frank's hot sauce on it. Like my grandpa didn't like spice, so one time I'm like, oh, I'm gonna mess with him. I put it in there, and I put it in his soup, and I stirred it up. And he's like, oh my God. And I was like, what? He's like, this soup it tastes the best I've ever made it. And I started laughing. I'm like, dude, I put some Frank's Red Hot. He's like, really? I hate spice. And I'm like, yeah, but look, it added a different flavor to your soup. So yeah, I'm going to have some of that tonight for dinner and some cornbread on the side.
Nice.
I have class right now at 6. So I'm kind of like I'm excited for the soup. At the same time, I have class. So I'm kind of like, okay. I'm kind of over there. But as of right now, I'm going to watch the end of the Pat McAfee show. I'm trying to plug, bro. I'm trying to get on there. So
you're all over the place, man. You got a lot to do.
Aren't we all?
A lot to do,
exactly.
man.
Exactly. But no, what's on the docket for you guys? What are you guys having for dinner?
I might be smoking something on the Traeger. I'm not quite sure yet.
And I thought he was going to, the way he started that sentence, I thought he was going to go a different route with that. But okay, I'm glad you went with that. Jake's probably just gonna have some Oreos and a Diet Dr. Pepper.
Hey man, I'm easy. Doesn't take a lot to.
What about some corn dogs, Jackie? Corn dogs for all these people.
Corn dogs for all these people, Jackie.
Look, Fernando, it is a pleasure having you on the show. You are welcome anytime.
I appreciate it.
Good luck with class. Let's get a picture of your soup tonight once you have it. I want to see that on Twitter.
I got you guys. Yep, I'll get you guys.
Right.
For sure. Dan, thank you guys for having me on. It's always fun.
Thank you, man.
Jake, get better at those questions. We'll get there one day.
Baby steps, my friend. Baby steps. Fernando, thank you so much.
Toddler steps.
Well, that was our conversation with Sports Illustrated Fernando Ramirez. Jake, always a fun time, always a crazy conversation when we have Fernando on the line. Such a blast. What'd you think?
Oh, it's nothing but a good time when Fernando joins the show. Can always guarantee a few laughs, but some great insight from Fernando. It's just from the standpoint of, how long he's been covering with the team. So his compare and contrast to, what little do we know now of the coaching staff that's being brought in, and obviously pieces are still being filled, but what he can already see in the philosophy of the coaching staff to compare what it's been in years past and what he'd like it to get back to. Just simple example, again, what he was talking about with Austin Eckler, as far as just getting him back in that 2018 form where the offense was utilizing him more in the passing game. Dan, how many times have I told you on this show that it's just like the Chargers a number of times this year got to a point where something was working and working and working. You go back to those games against Tampa Bay, against New Orleans, where you're up 17 points and the offense is just clicking. Justin Herbert's in the zone. And then all of a sudden you just decide to, change the channel and do something completely different. So, I fully agree with what Fernando was saying in that regard. It's just, don't shy away from what's working. Who gives a crap if you're running the scoreboard up or whatever your philosophy is on that? Keep your foot on the gas and blow some people out for a change. Hey, that would be a different thing to see.
Right. But when's the last time we got to enjoy a blowout victory? I mean, it really hasn't been in a minute. I mean, last time I remember was the Packers 2 years ago?
Yep, that's probably about the closest thing to it.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of things I thought were really interesting. One, he brought up kind of the workmanship and the professionalism of Drew Brees and kind of how potentially Justin Herbert can kind of emulate that now. Mm-hmm. I also thought it was really interesting hearing him talk about getting the best players in opportunities to succeed. Whether it's Joe Reed using him more, whether it's getting Austin Eckler.
Yes,
there's so many components of this team that, for whatever reason, just kind of felt handcuffed. And you're not really letting them out of the garage, if you will. And so what it sounded like to me was, from what Fernando was saying, was like, look, at the end of the day, this coaching staff is going to rely on its best players and put the ball in their hands. So do I see us being a run-heavy team next year? Not a chance. We're going to put the ball in Justin Herbert's hands, and I think we're going to hopefully let him cook. And by Justin, we go. Look, it's kind of, you mentioned, Nazir Adderley as one of the guys that could be a big proponent of him.
Benefit, yeah.
Kenneth Murray. We talked about, I mean, there's all kinds of folks that could benefit from this new philosophy and this new staff. So, look, I think it's a really fascinating group that we have as this coaching staff. And Jake, the special teams can't get any worse, can it?
It's going to be hard for any season from 2020 moving forward to get any worse than what it was last year. I mean, we've seen some bad special teams years for this team in years past, and you always think to yourself, there's no way it can get any worse than that. Well, I mean, it made records for all the wrong reasons in the history books this year. So
it really did. And you know what's funny? I'm saying it's funny because I'm not crying. I remember last season, there were points where I was literally asking for us just fair catch, don't even touch the ball, just let the ball roll to the 1 yard line for all I care. Stop even trying to field punts or kickoffs. It's just not even worth it. Can we please not be that in 2021? That'd be wonderful.
And hey, it'd be a great request. I'm sure the entire Chargers fan base is asking for that. But, it's unfortunately the Chargers don't answer fan requests as often as we'd hope. But maybe under this regime they will.
Maybe. Well, Jake, this is a fun one. I can't wait to see what Chargers fans, Chargers Brawl listeners have to say. Anything else you wanted to do before we get out of here?
It's just been a whirlwind where we still have we still have some coaching vacancies that we do need to fill, both on the offense and the defensive side, even though the coaching tree is starting to take shape for this team finally under Brandon Staley. And it's going to be, again, interesting to see how they go about filling these holes. You still have running backs coaches. You still have an offensive line coach to fill, a wide receivers coach, a defensive backs coach that you have to fill for Ron Mila. So, of course, these are probably going to still be taking place within the next couple of weeks. So it'll be intriguing once this staff is fully complete. But, hey, all eyes on the Senior Bowl this week.
Yes.
Please explain what you will be doing specifically, because this is big.
Yes. So specifically, there are some folks potentially that are in the pipeline to be interviewed from the Senior Bowl. I do have virtual credentials this year and going to be grinding tape. Did it on day one. Got some stuff to do tonight. Got some stuff to do all week. So there might be some things in store, but I'll keep that close to the vest until we have it. Jake, I think we got to give a shout out to another special someone who had given us a review on Apple Podcasts. What do you think?
Always sounds good to give back to fans that give back to us. Obviously, we give back to all the fans in the best way we can. But yeah, we always like hearing stuff like this.
Someone by the name of Pyro KM47 left us a 5-star review. Jake, 5 stars. Can you believe it? Probably not after this show, huh?
Definitely not. No, this may drop the rating a little bit.
Just a little. Pyro KM47 titled "Let's Go." Thanks for the pod, fellas. Love it. In Northern Cali, we don't get much Chargers coverage. Keep up the great work. I appreciate it. Bolt up. Been a fan from Flutie to Breeze to El Capitan, and now Herb. Excited for this year. Pyro KM47, thank you for the shout out. Appreciate your listening. Appreciate the fandom all the way back since Flutie. I still remember when Flutie kicked the field goal. Remember that? Extra point?
Yes, I remember that.
Those were the good old days, huh? Cool. Well, Jake, let's wrap this thing up. Guys, thank you so much for following us. Thank you so much for listening. We will speak to you next time on the Chargers Brawl podcast.
I want to remind our listeners that today's support for the Chargers Brawl is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Big news, Manscaped just released their new cologne scent to help you feel good and smell good all over and at all times. Who knew smelling this good could feel this good, too? Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. Join the movement for all of your below-the-waist grooming needs.
Jake, how horrible is it when you are walking away from a gym or you're walking down the street and you just smell raunchiness across the way and you know exactly who it is?
It's not pleasant.
No, it's not. When do you smell the worst, Jake?
It varies, and there's always, a need to refresh. But I would definitely say, since my workouts are, beginning of the day, every day, It's usually shortly after that.
Okay, so 1 minute after you leave the gym.
Pretty much.
Well, look, everyone knows Manscaped has a perfect package 3.0 for all your below-the-waist grooming needs, but they didn't stop there. Complete your grooming game with the new Refined Cologne Signature Scent by Manscaped. With the same signature scent that is in all Manscaped formulas, this cologne is a perfect complement to the collection. It's light, it's approachable, the gentlemanly in all the right ways. Think of it as your wingman for the night to keep you fresh and ready for anything. Also, be sure to check out the Perfect Package 3.0 with all the essentials for your below-the-waist grooming needs, including the Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer and crop formulations. Yes, I'm talking about ball deodorant and toner to keep your testes besties. And now, you can use the new Manscaped Refined Cologne to complete your set and smell great anytime, anywhere.
It's time to feel sexy. Get 20% off free shipping with the code BRAWL at manscaped.com. Your balls and body will thank you.